In this tutorial we're going to be looking at one more aspect of normal map baking, and what this is making sure that you have a tapered edge and no right angles on any of your models. So in our example file you can see we've got a low poly and a high poly mesh, and if we look at our high poly mesh, let's say from the top view, so just hold down spacebar, left click on the Mayor button and go to top view, you can see that, let's just turn off our grid, you can see that all of our extrusions and bolts and things are at complete right angles, like so. So there's no taper to this. Now the problem with this is, and I'll just try and demo this real quick, to move the low poly onto your high poly, just hold down X and snap it like so. So let's say this is our low poly. To generate a normal map, it's going to fire rays out from this surface, and what's going to happen is these are going to just go straight down like so. They're going to hit the top of this surface and then hit the top of this surface, but they're not going to catch any of that line in between because it's at a perfectly straight line compared to this. So it's not going to generate anything on the normal map. So let's use Z, try and do that back, and let's see what happens then when we bake this. So we'll go to transfer maps. I have it as a shortcut, but you can get to it through lighting, shading, transfer maps. Let's just clear all. So we'll add our low poly in here, and we'll add our high poly in here. Let's select the low poly and just drag it over our high poly by holding X and snapping to the grid. Then we'll go to the display and show both. And what you want to make sure is that this red envelope is sitting above the bolts. So as long as it's sitting above the bolts, you know you're okay. So I had it on 3.8 before, like so. So yeah, that should work okay. So we'll go back to mesh on display. So let's set a file. I've just called mine taper example.tga. Then we will make sure we're set to tangent space, and in our common output we'll have 1024 size map, world space bake, and set this to preview. So we should be able to just now hit bake, and it shouldn't take long at all. Then we'll select our low poly. To get your outliner, by the way, is just this little tab here, the one with this icon. So we'll do hide unselected, and there's our low poly, and notice we can't see anything. So even though we have our texture display on, there doesn't seem to be any normal map on here. But if we go to Lambert 4, go to bump mapping, and go to view on this, that's our normal map. You can see it hasn't baked any detail at all, it's just blank. And that's because it hasn't been able to pick up any of the detail because of the perfect right angles on this. So let's select our low poly and move this back out with X. And we'll select our high poly, and we're just going to scale this in to give this some taper. If you want to be more precise about it, you can do it from your top view. So on one of these, we're going to select the vertex, press Control and then F11, and then scale that in as well. So we'll just do those two for now, and let's see if that works. So we'll hold down X and snap our low poly back over here, and then in transfer maps we'll just hit bake again. So again, that's nice and fast. So let's select our low poly and drag this out, and we can already see our normal map is now showing that bolt and showing this intrusion as well. Also, if we just turn off our grid display, we can see that the lighting here, you've got shadow on this side and you've got shadow on this side. So we can see the light is coming from here, but because this is extruding in and this is extruding out, we're getting the lighting on different sides, so it's just right. So we can finish off this bake by just doing the same thing again, selecting that vertex, Control F11 and scaling that in, and same again on here. Now obviously the more you scale in, the more depth is potentially going to appear on your normal map. Actually, one other thing I'll quickly show you on this, even though it isn't particularly relevant to the tutorial, is let's say you wanted to extrude all of these in and make sure it's exactly the same distance each time. Well, to do that, what you can do is if you just double click on the scale tool here and go to step snap and just put relative and just set this to 0.1, and now if I control F11 on there and pull in, you can see it's actually stepping like that. So I can just do, say, 3 steps like that, and then I could do the same on this one as well, 2, 3, and so on. Obviously I'd already done those two, but what the hell, it's only an example anyway, so I will just leave that for now. Right, so let's just hit bake one more time then, and we'll pull that out, and now you can see we have all of our details baked in, and the ones that have more of a taper inwards, you can see that one has the least, that one looks like it's sticking out the least as well. So the more taper you have, the more you can imply distance. Obviously these are probably sticking out, it's probably about the maximum I would go on a normal map anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much the maximum. So yeah, that's why you always make sure you taper edges, never have perfect kind of right angles on normal map baking details.